Hey there, Tommy from the Run Testers with yet another first run review. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Saucony Kinvara 14. The Saucony Kinvara 14 costs £125 or $120. It weighs in at 203 grams or 7.1 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 4mm. The Kinvara 14 is the latest version of Saucony's long-standing lightweight shoe designed for faster training sessions and race day. Everything about the shoe is designed to keep it lean and strip off unnecessary bulk and features, making it a noticeably simple shoe when compared to options like the Endorphin line. Not a great deal has changed in the latest version of the Kinvara. It still has a modest level of PWRRUN midsole foam for cushioning, 2 small areas of outsole rubber to protect the foam across the key areas of wear, and a PWRRUN Plus sockliner to help with propulsion. The upper is made from a thin dual mesh material to offer breathability and comfort, and there's a bit of padding in the gusseted tongue and plenty around the heel collar for comfort. So the fit for me in the Kinvara 14 is, it's very narrow. It's a really narrow shoe. I don't normally have an issue when shoes are a little bit narrow. I've got fairly average sized feet, so even when shoes are narrow, I don't really tend to have a major issue with them. I did with this. So when I was out running in it, after I got to about 10k, my foot really started hurting around the sides of my feet. And it took me a while. I had to stop a few times to loosen up the shoe a bit and try and get a bit of a better fit, and I still couldn't really get a good fit. And I think that's just down to the narrowness of the shoe, and I just really couldn't get a nice comfortable fit in it. So aside from that, there also is quite a bit of space in the forefoot as well. I'd probably say size down half a size in these shoes, but the fact that they're so narrow, it's probably going to mean that they get even more narrow if you size down, so it's probably not a good idea to do that. But I would say that the length of the shoe is probably a little bit long, but they are very narrow. So the Kinvara range is an interesting part of Saucony's range of shoes. It's a shoe that's been around for a very long time, and back in the 2010s, it was a shoe that was pretty good. It's a lean, lightweight shoe. It's designed for speed. It's quite minimal. It's fairly no frills. And back in those days, that was what fast shoes were. They were no frills, lightweight shoes that just meant that you could run without a lot of weight on your feet. Now, in 2023, there's a lot of better shoes that do speed, and they're not necessarily the lightest shoes around, but they have technology and features in them that mean that running fast is just a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient. So the fact that this is really light is probably the only thing that's really going for it for me. I've tried quite a few Kinvaras over the past few years, and not a lot has changed in the design of the shoe. It's one of those legacy shoes that the brand sort of keeps the same all the time, presumably to keep the people happy who have always bought Kinvaras. But it's not really developed a lot in the past few versions I've used. I actually used the Kinvara 11, I think, for one of my early half marathon PBs. So I got a 1:27 in Cambridge half marathon, and I wore the Kinvara 11 for that. I wasn't a massive fan of it. Definitely would have preferred to have worn a carbon plate shoe for a half marathon distance. It was okay, and I think that version of the shoe had a little bit more to it. It felt like there was a little bit more cushioning in it. There was just a little bit bulkier as a shoe. This version of the Kinvara 14, it's really light. That's like the main thing going for it is that it's a ridiculously light shoe. But to be a really light shoe, it really doesn't have any major positive features to it. The PWRRUN foam that runs in the midsole, it's fine. It's by no means an exciting and impressive foam. It feels to me pretty much the same as all the other versions have. It's not particularly soft foam. It's relatively firm when you're out running in it, and I don't really get a lot of cushioning in it or a lot of bounce or anything. It's quite responsive, which is probably what you want from this shoe if you're going to be racing in it or doing fast intervals or training sessions in it. But it's not particularly inspiring midsole foam. It doesn't really do a great deal. The upper as well, I mentioned the fit was a problem for me. I don't actually mind the upper. It is really light, and I did find it quite comfortable. I did have a problem getting a nice lockdown fit in it because it's quite a loose feeling upper, despite the fact that it's quite narrow, and I really did have to tighten it down to get a good fit. But the problem is that once you've tightened it down to get a good fit, the narrowness of the shoe causes a bigger problem because it makes it even more narrow. So it makes it quite uncomfortable to run in unless you can get a really good fit. And I didn't get a really good fit over the course of the run that I was doing. I actually did 2 runs in this shoe. I've been away for the weekend, so I took it with me. The first run that I did was a 18 kilometres, and that was at slow pace. So it was just my standard pace, about 5-minute kilometres. And the second run I did it was more intervals, so a little bit of warm up, and then I did a load of intervals in it. During the long, slow run, I really didn't get anything from this shoe. There's not enough cushioning in it to be enjoyable on a slow run. It's not a particularly comfortable shoe in general. So for that long, I was running for about an hour and 40 minutes. It wasn't very comfortable at all. I just didn't get anything I enjoyed out of it for that. But it's not designed to be a long, slow training shoe, so I don't see that as being a major issue. When I ran in doing some intervals in it, it was okay. It was fine. It definitely was a lot better for doing those intervals than it was for that long, slow run. I wouldn't use it for anything over 10k, I don't think, this shoe, because it just doesn't have enough cushioning in it for me. There's some people that might be all right who really want a minimal shoe, don't need loads of cushioning, maybe doing lots of speed type work and don't want to use a carbon plate shoe. Might be all right for them. So, but for me, over those intervals, it was just okay. I've got plenty other shoes, and the shoes that sit within the Saucony range, like the Endorphin Speed 3, which I'd much rather use for interval training or any speed work, to be honest. So it's a tricky one. I'd say that first run, or those first 2 runs, I didn't really warm to it at all. And to be honest, I've never really warmed that much to the Kinvara range, apart from ages ago when it was one of the best options out there for lightweight running. Now I think it's just sort of an old style shoe that some people might like. If you've loved the Kinvara for a long time, you're getting the same shoe basically with this. I don't think there's any major updates in this, probably apart from the upper, which is slightly different. But there's so many other shoes out there now that have just moved on technically. There's lightweight shoes that have carbon plates in them. There's shoes that just have got better foams in them. I mean, even Saucony's own range has got a far superior foam to this. And it's not like this is a massively budget shoe. It's cheaper than a lot of other shoes, but it's not a budget shoe. It's still quite a bit of money to spend on a shoe for something that doesn't really have a lot of features in it. So I would say over those first couple of runs, haven't really found a love of this shoe. Definitely wouldn't go over do a long distance in this shoe. And to be honest, at the moment I've got better shoes that I'd go for. So we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks. Okay, so my verdict on the Saucony Kinvara 14 is that it is a shoe that has remained the same for a long time. If you love the Kinvara and you just want a new version, to be honest, I wouldn't buy this. I'd buy an older version because I don't think the new version really does a lot. If you are somebody looking for a lightweight shoe, doesn't want a carbon plate in it, there are better shoes than this. I'd probably say something like the Puba Liberate Nitro 2 is a nicer, more comfortable shoe, similar sort of weight, probably a bit heavier, but not noticeably. But it just has a bit more to it. The cushioning just a bit more balanced. It's better for longer runs, even though it's quite a lean shoe. So yeah, I'd go for something like that. Hoka Mach 5 as well. That's a little bit heavier than this, and it's probably there's a bit more to that shoe when it comes to features. I definitely pick up the Hoka Mach 5 over this shoe if I was going to do any sort of shorter distance speed work, and that's what I used for most of my training for Chicago Marathon last year. So yeah, struggling to find a reason for this shoe in 2023. I don't think it's a bad shoe if you just want a lightweight shoe for 5 to 10k distance, but I also just don't think it's a competitive shoe in the market at the moment, and it's either due for a big redesign or Saucony needs to focus on the Endorphin range, because I think that's where the real nice shoes that Saucony's got are. And there are shoes that are coming up which I would pick over this as part of the Endorphin range, mainly thanks to that foam that sits in it. So yeah, not a successful first run in the Kinvara 14. I'll be doing a few more runs over it over the coming few weeks. Maybe I'll learn to love it after those runs. But at the moment, not a very successful first run. Okay, so that's from me on my first run on the Kinvara 14. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell, anything like that. anything would be great if you just, click something. And as long as it's not the dislike button. If you go into the caption below, you can also find a link to our most recent podcast, which is all about how to buy a running watch if you're listening to this in May. And other than that, check out the channel for all the other videos we've got at the moment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.